Go.
Hi, I'm Jackson, and today we're out here pollinating some pterocacti. Pterocactus is a relatively small genus of South American opuntiads, mainly native to Argentina. One cool thing that these cacti, as well as other prickly pears and a few other groups of cacti have, is irritable stamens. This means when the pollinator, in this case my paintbrush here, comes in and touches the pollen producing part of the flower or the stamens, they will start to fold in on themselves relatively quickly, obscuring the pollen from view. One reason this adaptation is thought to have occurred is because pollen is a nutrient-rich food source for insects, the insects that come and pollinate these flowers. And the flower wants the insects to take only the bare minimum amount of pollen that they need in order to carry that pollen to another flower and pollinate it, versus sitting in the flower and starting to eat or take too much of that pollen. So if you come in here and we can see it in person, stick my paintbrush in the flower here, mimicking what a pollinator would do, you can see that those stamens immediately start to fold in, and now there is pretty much no or less pollen on my paintbrush. Same thing happens when we do that to this species of pterocactus. You can see as I move my paintbrush in there, those stamens will fold in, obscure that pollen from my brush. I can't get down in that flower now at all. Same thing happens when we move to a regular prickly pear. This is just a opuntia species. Get my paintbrush in that flower, and you can see that as soon as I start to move it around in there, all those stamens start to fold in towards the center of the flower. And I can't get it onto my brush anymore. Once the pollinator has come and triggered these stamens to fold in on themselves, it'll only last a couple minutes, just enough to kind of discourage that pollinator from taking any more pollen to move on to the next flower, and then just a couple minutes later, those stamens will reopen. The flower will look the same as it did originally. This does make it a little difficult when you're pollinating and hybridizing cacti. You have to get your brush in the flower very quickly, get some pollen on it, I guess as the flower intends to not spend too much time collecting pollen from any single flower. But it is a very interesting adaptation that we can see in cacti as well as some other plants in different families.